And Jesse, it's great to have you here with us today, and welcome. And you can go ahead and share your screen.
All right, will do. Well, I'd love to just you know, introduce myself a little bit more, but also get to know each of you. So I would love just in the chat if you're willing to just jump in and let us know where you're joining from, what organization you're a part of, what your role is. Just help me to know who's in the room, the virtual room where we're hanging out today. So would love to see that in the chat. And I'll also, introduce myself a little bit more. But I first wanted to start out as you post that by not just saying hello, but also saying thank you. I would just imagine that you're a passionate group, and I appreciate that passion. I'm also pretty passionate about the kind of work that you all do, and that's why I'm in this role. So I'm curious, along with your name and organization, put in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, how passionate are you about your cause or your ministry that you're a part of? On a scale of 1 to 10. I would have you, raise your fingers, but I can't see. 11, right out of the gate. We're already breaking the scale, right? And I'm just seeing tens uh, so far. So is anybody out there not 10 out of 10 passionate about their cause? I'm actually not surprised at all because you all are, what we call good makers, which is because you're made in the image of God to make good things and to make the world a better place. And so, whether that's sharing the good news or creating some good work, you're good makers and you're passionate about that work. And I love being surrounded by passionate people. And so sometimes that passion can get us started into ministry or into a role because we love the cause, but we realize that, you've got to have funds to actually do the ministry that is needed. And so today we're going to be talking about fundraising, specifically organizational fundraising, although a lot of the principles can also, almost all the principles can be applied to personal fundraising as well. So a little bit about myself. Like Heather said, I'm a believer, passionate about Jesus and the Great Commission. I am a husband of 15 years, a founder of a couple companies, and coach to nonprofits and ministry leaders. That's what I do every day, and I absolutely love it. And I'm a girl dad. I have 3 daughters. Here they are. I'm obsessed with my girls, Nora, Ruby, and Mabel. So if you have, a few hours today, I'd love to show you pictures of how cute they are and how awesome they are. I'm just so proud of them. Even though coaching my 8-year-old's basketball team is a challenge, it's a awesome privilege to be their dad. So big part of who I am. And then, like Heather mentioned, I created this thing called the Fundraising Masterclass, which has really taken off as a lot of nonprofit leaders are getting incredible results. And so I'm going to tell you a lot of the principles I'm going to be sharing today about how to double your next fundraising campaign are coming directly from this masterclass where we're seeing people double, triple, a lot of times actually 10x their last fundraising campaign. And so everything I'm teaching today is kind of based on the roadmap that we have developed there. I want to tell you a quick story about Brandy. She's in the black shirt here with the headband, and she joined the masterclass really feeling overwhelmed. She just had a lot that as a kind of executive director role, she was leading a team and a small ministry nonprofit here in Northwest Arkansas. And, like most ministry leaders, feeling overwhelmed by the work. And just because there was a lot, as most of you probably do, she was wearing a lot of hats, juggling all kinds of balls, trying to keep everything up, and didn't have a lot of time for fundraising. But she was, when we started to talk with her, she was unsure who would even give beyond what the donors she already had, and those that were already giving, she was nervous to ask for more because they were already giving so generously. Right. And so maybe you can relate to some of those feelings, but through the masterclass and our coaching and working and the principles I'm going to tell you about, which I'm going to walk you through, she was able to really unlock some of their mindset shifts that needed to happen, start communicating in new ways. And in that one campaign we worked on together in only 2 months of time, She went from 17,000 the year before to almost 70,000 in the after working with the masterclass. So all that to say, these strategies work. Doubling your next campaign is possible, and tripling, quadrupling, that's also possible. So and that's what we see over and over again. So let me uh, move into some of the strategies I want to teach you. But the reason I'm so passionate about this because I actually felt the same way as Brandy. This was my first one of my first leadership team meetings at the seed company where I worked for 4 years, and surrounded by amazing people. You may recognize some, and I was so intimidated because I had a fundraising goal for the first time, and I kind of hated fundraising because all of a sudden I had this new fear of criticism and rejection and failure. Like, what if I fall short and everybody that I respect in this leadership team, I have to tell them that I just fell way short of my goals. And I was just nervous about that. And I was immediately feeling, so busy trying to do it all and distracted by the fires that I had to put out and just a little overwhelmed. So I felt like Brandy. And I don't know if any of you ever feel that way. Um, hopefully I'm not alone. Maybe if you have felt that way, put it in the chat, like, I can relate or something. That way I don't feel all alone in this. But as a nonprofit, this was my first job in a nonprofit, and I just felt this place of just busyness and like, oh my goodness, I have to raise all this money. And that makes me uncomfortable, raising money, asking people for money. Right. And so, okay, good. I'm seeing a few people relate to this. Okay, good. It wasn't just me. So in the next 10 years, by God's grace, I've had the chance to lead, dozens of fundraising campaigns, teach thousands of nonprofit leaders, and help raise over $100 million. So how did I go from hating fundraising to that? It was a lot of experimentation. I didn't like being so bad at it. And biblically, I saw the place for inviting generosity, and I believed in that. And so I went, dealt with some things in my heart. I experimented. I failed a lot. I learned a lot, and was able to grow the things that were working and learn from a lot of amazing experts at Seed Company and others in my career. And so I've been doing that for 10 years now, and just have learned a lot. So excited to package up some of that for you today and share what I've learned. What you're going to get today is this full roadmap to campaign growth. This is what we teach in the masterclass. I'll show you the full roadmap. It may feel overwhelming because we can't cover it all today, but I want to show you kind of what an ideal campaign looks like. Some success stories. I already shared one of those with Brandy, a little bit of my own, and then I'll share one or two more. And then some of our top fundraising strategies, like just specific strategies for like that really can immediately unlock some better results for your next campaign. Some practical next steps. I don't want you to walk away with theory. I want you to walk away with some action items, some things to go do. And then we want to actually give you some free tools. We have a whole bunch of free tools. We love giving those away because it takes all that I'm going to say today and makes it a lot easier to implement. So there's actually a kit. We call it the Nonprofit Booster Kit, but it's got a lot of our best worksheets and exercises in there. So if you want to download that for free, I'll show it to you a few times today. You can just go to goodmakerU.com/kit and download that. So yeah, so that's some free stuff for you. And here's the roadmap. So I'm gonna again maybe overwhelm you with a lot of information, and then I'll draw out what I believe is the most important pieces that you need to know. So, as you're approaching a fundraising campaign, which maybe I should explain what that is. If you haven't done one before, a fundraising campaign is just has a start date and an end date with a goal to raise funds to support a certain thing, right? And they really work. You can have year-round fundraising, and that's great. You can have relationship building and building gifts and having funds coming in year round. But a campaign is a moment to really escalate some of that activity and that communication. And you want to rally people around in a special moment for a short amount of time. And so it requires kind of extra work, extra communication, extra energy, and it's worth it because it results in extra funds. And so, oh, we're having some issues with the QR code. So yeah, thanks, Joshua. See if that one works. Maybe that was an old QR code or broken for some reason. So yeah, it is. It's if you want to find the kit, just go to goodmakerU.com/kit. That should work. All right, thanks guys for troubleshooting. So the roadmap here is a lot, and I'm not going to read through all of this, but this is like the full picture. You see things in there that you might recognize, like peer-to-peer fundraising and social media. We're actually not going to touch on all that today; it's just too much. But I wanted to pull out what I felt like was the most important things to cover in this short amount of time we have. So these four things are what I want to talk about today. I believe if you just do these four things to the next level, you could double your fundraising results. And so I'm going to explain what those are. So first, we believe that so much of the issue for nonprofit leaders, ministry leaders, fundraisers is a mindset issue, and it just needs to be reset. There's something in us that can really struggle with some blockers that hold us back, and we need to break through those. And so, why do you kind of feel like why would I say you need a mindset reset? And that's because everything else is affected by your mindset. Like every email you send, every invitation you give, the goals that you even set, everything is affected by it. So if you start there, it's very foundational and it affects everything else you do. And so you may be saying, what do you mean by that? What kind of mindset issues could we have? And these are kind of the four issues that we see, and then the good maker mindset that we recommend to nonprofits that we coach and train. So, first of all, the ones on the right are what we often see people fall into, and the ones on the left is what we recommend and what we're going for as good makers. A very common thing in the nonprofit space and in the ministry world is just a survival mindset. It's like we don't have the funds. Maybe it's a small organization, and we're literally just trying to keep the doors open, or just trying to get through this emergency moment or this season of the organization. But what can happen is if you're always going back to the survival mode, your body, your mind can get into this place where you're thinking you just get used to it. That's your new habit. So you're always in survival mode. You're always thinking about you're looking around and thinking, oh, if I don't do XYZ, we may not survive this. And I want to just stop in case some of you are in that and help you to say maybe that's actually not true right now or in certain seasons, and you can step back because survival mode will force you to be put blinders on, which can be good when you're trying to survive. And if you think about the animal kingdom, if an animal's chasing you and you're about to get caught, you need to be focused, right? But you're not always in that moment, and there's moments when you need to back up, not just think about the short-term survival, but think about the long-term view of your organization and that growth mindset that you need to learn, that you need to grow. And just the fact that you're taking the time to come to this webinar makes me think you're probably already in a growth mindset. Another one we see is scarcity mindset, just that there's not enough funds to go around. There's not enough donors, there's not enough attention of audience members, there's not enough money. And that's just absolutely not true. I see that throughout history and even in scripture, but also just in my day-to-day life, working with nonprofits and ministry leaders. There is plenty of resources out there, and collaboration instead of competition can unlock some of those. And just the mindset shift of saying, like, creatively going for the goals and the vision that I have and that have been given to me and I feel called to. And the resources are out there. And so that's the shift between from scarcity to abundance. And then another one we fall into is perfectionism. And I know I definitely fall into this, is wanting everything to be perfectly correct before anybody sees it. And that really shuts us down, slows us down, and keeps us from getting things out into the world. So when it comes to communications, marketing, yeah, even fundraising and inviting people to give, if we fall into this trap, we don't communicate enough because we're trying to get it perfect. And instead, especially in this fast-moving world, we have to have an iterative mindset, one that says, I'm just going to make some progress here. It may not be perfect, but I'll just keep making more progress and more progress. And that allows us to learn faster and grow quicker. And then the next one would be just not settling for the status quo. And it breaks my heart when I see ministries do this because, again, maybe they have scarcity mindset or something, but they're for whatever reason, they're kind of stuck doing the same thing they've always done, right? They've maybe done this same thing for 20, 30 years and they're like, you know, it's I can't imagine changing and maybe they're afraid of change. And so my heart for nonprofits is that they would challenge themselves to go to the next level, even if it's not perfect, but what's that next level for us? What does innovation look like in this moment? And it doesn't have to always change, but there are things that need to continue to grow and break out of the status quo. And so that's a mindset that we can fall into and can really hold us back. Also, just when there is a tight resource constraint, there's not enough funds, maybe your team isn't as big as you think it needs to be, then it can be like, well, we can't grow to the next level. We can't get to the next place. We can't do this with excellence because we just don't have enough resources. And again, you settle for the status quo. So I want to encourage you to shift some mindsets, maybe just take a pulse. And the last thing I'll say on this is mindset changes all the time. So you could wake up in the morning feeling wonderful about things, all your mindset is in a good place. And then you get an email at 9 a.m. and all of a sudden your mindset is in a whole different place immediately. And so this is a very fluid thing. And so we just need to always come back and surface where am I at in my mindset? For me, I pray a lot about this and it allows me to, shift into a healthier place. All right, so that was the first piece. The second piece I want to talk about is your core message, and I really think this can be a huge breakthrough for some of you, maybe on the webinar. And the reason for that is the Let's see, my slides look funny. There we go. The confused mind always says no. I'm gonna sit with that for a second. The confused mind always says no. So if you're confusing people even just a little bit, they're not going to give. They're not going to volunteer. They're not going to share what you're doing. They're not going to sign up for your email list. They are going to say no, or they're just going to ghost you, right? Or just not respond at all. And we don't want that. That's another way of saying no. And so we can't confuse people. So when you talk about your cause, are you able to be concise? Really compelling with the message? And are you able to be crystal clear? Those things have to be in place. Those aren't the desire, those aren't like the want to have list. Those are like essential because otherwise you're confusing people. So I'm curious, actually put it in the chat. Uh, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well can you talk about what you do? If someone asks you, hey, what do you do exactly? Um, how well can you present that in a concise, clear, compelling way on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, I'm 7 to 8, 8. Okay, 7, 6, 8. So the good news is I haven't seen any like ones or twos. That's good. 9, we got 8 to 10, depending on the audience. I like that you're thinking about the audience, Matt. That's smart. Some aspects 9, others 4. Okay, yeah. 10 plus. I love that confidence. I wish you could present to us your message right now. That'd be awesome. But I will say this: if you're not at a 10, you've got room to grow, and it's important and worth spending time on that. If you're even at a 7 or 8 and you're thinking that's pretty good, it can really elevate and escalate the growth of your organization and your funds if you can get it to a 10. You really probably don't know how many people are not giving or not giving much because they just don't quite understand what you do. So I think it's worth the time to get that to that next level. Part of the reason this happens is you have the curse of knowledge. As someone who's a part of your organization, you know too much. And if you haven't heard of this concept, it's just this idea that when you know so much about something, it's hard to communicate it simply. So it's a bit of a curse. So as you are trying to communicate on social media with people with very short attention spans or on your website, above the fold, you've got 5 seconds to get their attention. All of that knowledge is actually holding you back because you're like, which one do I communicate? What do I say in this space? And you either over communicate or you say the wrong thing, and it's not your fault. You have a lot of knowledge, right? It's just what comes with the territory. But that just being aware of that and seeing if you can get help with that can go a long way. Because if you can't talk about what you do, you're really going to struggle to get create awareness, to grow your audience, or to fundraise. It blocks all of those things. And so you got to get past that. So I would say the way to craft your what we call core message and make it clear is first you got to know your target audience. And I'm glad I saw a couple of you talking about your audience in the chat. You've got to know your audience. And you may have multiple audiences, but who are they? What are their where do they live, like as far as online? What's their goals in life, their challenges, their fears? What motivates them? Know them so you can speak to them in a language that they would understand. And then you got to cut out the jargon. And we sometimes forget it's jargon, but we use it anyway. And I know I'm guilty of this too. It's really easy to do. So I would encourage you to just be very aware and look at your website, look at your messaging. Are there words in there that not everybody would understand? Um, and the other thing is simplify the language. Maybe it's not jargon, but it's a big fancy word you're really proud of. Your vocabulary, you got it from the thesaurus, way to go. And English teachers used to like reward that, but that's actually bad for marketing. And it's because it makes people's brains work too hard to actually understand what you're saying. It slows them down. People don't have the attention spans for that, or they don't understand it, especially if it's orally delivered or they're watching a video. They can't keep up with it, trying to like, oh yeah, I know what that means, but let me stop and think about it. And then you're a couple sentences further along. So simple language is understood and allows people to, again, not be confused. And at the end of the day, that's our goal, is clarity so that they can respond from whatever you're asking them to do. And then ultimately test it with your audience. I mean, you may think it's a great message. Everybody in your team's high-fiving. This is an awesome message. But then you ask someone that doesn't work with you, and all of a sudden you realize they have no idea what we're talking about. They're confused. And that happens all the time. So that's the ultimate test, right? And if you're looking for help with this, I would say bring in someone from the outside to help with your core message. This is something we work on a lot in our fundraising masterclass. And I'll say that we've literally done hundreds of these, and the first draft someone produces is never the final draft. So you need some iteration, some edits. We usually come in and provide multiple suggestions, and then we do a second or third draft. And once we get something that's really strong, they put it everywhere, right? Homepage, they use it in their elevator pitch. So here's some tips for how to communicate more clearly if you go to write some messaging. Storytelling, right, is the best way you can communicate. So powerful. Use you language. Use the word you, literally use the word you. If you go to your homepage right now and you can't find the word you or your, you've got a problem. You need to not just be talking about yourself all the time, but you allow your audience to be the center of the story and your donor to see themselves in it. So use the word you and your. Use a relational tone. People connect with people, not organizations and brands. So they should feel the relational tone coming through, and you should know your personality as a brand so that you can really communicate that well. Demonstrate impact with proof, right? What does that look like for you? It's different for every organization, but the way you can make it concrete for someone is to prove it, whether that's photos or GPS coordinates of where it happened, or storytelling, or just proof that you're having an impact. And then give clear and concrete invitations. Vague asks for giving don't work as well. So something like, would you please consider supporting us? So they could say, yes, I want to support you. So I'm going to share on social media about this. But what you really meant was, please consider giving, $200 to this specific campaign or becoming a monthly donor. And instead, they just heard support and they thought, I'll define that the way I want to. And so you've got to be more clear and concrete with your invitations to give. And even that applies online as well as face to face. Don't beat around the bush and allow people to misunderstand your intent with your invitation. And then, did I say stories? I think I did. Stories are the most powerful form of communication. We are storytellers as humans. So we actually have a formula we use in the masterclass for a core message. And we don't have time for you to all go write this right now, but I'm going to just show you all our best stuff. And this is how we do it. We say, lead with a POW statement that gets their attention, because it's hard to get attention. So you've got to really hit them over the face with it. And then how starts to answer how you solve the problem that you presented, or kind of what differentiates you, what you do specifically. This is a very concrete statement, nothing fancy about it, no inspiration, just what you do, very concrete. The wow is where the inspiration comes in. This is the impact of solving that problem, or the vision that you have, right? This is where you can use some of that inspirational language that you love. And then now is the next step they need to take. And there should always be that call to action right on the heels of a great message. So, if you want to dive deeper into this or use this, we actually have this core message template in a Canva document in a PDF that we'll send you if you go and get the kit that we mentioned earlier. So there's the QR code again. Not sure if it's working, but the link is in the chat as well, or you can just go to that link. So that is in there. All right. The third thing I want to hit on is something that we call the A team. Maybe you've got some images conjuring in your mind about A teams you've seen on TV. That's not the one I'm talking about. So the A team is just people that are already involved in your organization. They're your board members, they're your major donors, they're big time fans of yours, the volunteers, the staff. And especially if you're at a small organization, these people are critically important, and really in any organization. And when you're running a fundraising campaign, whether that's an end of year campaign, a giving day, an event, these people, they deserve, because they've invested into what you're doing, they deserve to be the first to know and the first to be invited in. But yet we sometimes make the mistake of thinking, oh, they already know, they're going to get our email blast, they'll see it. But the truth is, they really deserve personal communication. They're invested, already involved, right? And so, because of that, like, give them that extra personal touch. Send them a personal note, even if it's just an email, text, or a phone call. Excuse me. They've earned that, and that will get more engagement from them, which has a ripple effect to get new donors and to bigger gifts and more engagement, peer-to-peer fundraising. All kinds of good things happen when you get these people involved. And I would never assume that they're tapped out. Don't assume, oh, well, they give $10,000, a year. That's a lot, so we don't want to ask for more. They could be giving $100,000 or $1 million to another ministry. This happens all the time, and they don't think you need more than 10,000, or you haven't asked for it, or you haven't cast a vision bigger than 10,000, right? So don't cap out your givers with, again, this kind of scarcity mindset of saying, oh, that's a lot, we'll take that. I don't want to offend. That's another mindset issue. You're not offending, you're inviting them into a great work. So invite them at that higher level if there's any chance they can give at that level. So that's your A team. I want to talk about one of the most strategic ways for again, we're talking about a campaign here. For a campaign to engage your A team is a matching gift. And we say matching gifts are magical. And that's because they literally motivate everybody involved. They get the person giving the matching gift excited to give, and maybe give more than they plan to. And then everyone else in your community that you're sending emails to, posting on social media, they get more excited. And there's a lot of data to back this up. So I think I've got a few stats here. Oh, wait, what is a matching gift first? And then we'll jump to the data. But if, in case you're not familiar with the concept, it's usually a major gift. It can sometimes be a pool of gifts. We've seen sometimes when you don't have a lot of major gifts that are givers that could do this, you could actually pull several kind of mid-level gifts together and say, y'all have created a matching pool. Isn't that exciting? So would you like to give $1,000 to our matching pool? Would you like to give $1,000 to a matching pool? We're trying to make a $5,000 match here, and we need 5 gifts. Or it could be your board giving a board match, which is a really great way to kick off a campaign. It shows your board is involved, that they're all in, and they get to give and participate that way. And so that is another way to do a matching gift. And this is used to incentivize, incentive, use it as an incentive to donate. It motivates people. They're thinking, oh, my money goes further when there's a match happening. I could go give this money anytime, but it brings a little urgency to that campaign, because they're saying, well, but if I give now, it actually means more. It helps them fulfill this match, and it's doubled. And so that is a great strategy for any giving campaign. And the proof, here's the statistics I was talking about. 84% of donors say they're more likely to donate if a match is offered. 1 in 3 donors will give a larger gift. So it's not to say only 1 out of 3 will give. It's saying, you already were gonna get 100 donors. Well, now, so I should have done some easier math here, but yeah, 33 of those will give more because there was a match. So they were all gonna give, but now they're gonna give more. And then 22% more likely to donate, period. So a lot of people that wouldn't donate will. So a matching gift has a big impact. It's worth the work to go find those givers that can partner in that way. And by the way, I've got a cool story on this. I didn't plan to share this, but I'll keep it quick. The one of our masterclass participants recently shared they were asking, they had this donor that they knew could give, and they were showing interest, and they were asking questions, and but they weren't giving. And they've been talking to him for months, like maybe years, and they just wouldn't give, they wouldn't give. But then they came to him and said, "Hey, we've got a big campaign coming up for end of year." This was at the end of year last year, and said, "We actually are looking for a matching giver, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in that." And they gave. And not only that, they gave a lot more than they had ever uh said they were going to give. I think twice as much. I think they, instead of giving 15,000, which is they were talking about, they gave 30,000 to make this match. So that's an example of how a matching gift can really motivate someone. So they gave the $30,000 match, and then the organization was able to go and get others to make their gifts to get matched. A lot of fun. All right, I'm gonna tell you another story. And this was again in our masterclass. You can see Maddie over here. This is one of our local masterclasses. We have them both virtually and in person and local. And she was really nervous. It was her first year as an executive director. She was at a ministry that the founder had kind of moved to a different position. She became the executive director, and she was unwavering in her why, passionate about the cause and the mission, like most of us are, right? But nervous about cash flow, worried about, where the funds going to come. And a lot of those relationships were with the founder. And so she had a whole lot to learn and a whole lot to do. So during the masterclass, we worked with her on a Giving Day campaign. So if you have a regional Giving Day in your area, you're familiar with these. This is a one-day giving event. In the year before, they had raised about $10,000. And after working with us and kind of shifting her mindset, she got a matching gift of $50,000. And so proof matching gifts work. And then she got almost $50,000 in giving to match that. So all in all, she raised nearly $100,000. That is 10x growth. And so when I say you can double your campaign, this is proof you can do even more. So she talked about the confidence that she got from that. And to me, confidence is so important for a fundraiser because it's really easy to be nervous and scared and then just not even invite people to give. But once you have that confidence, you can. So if you want to get kind of started on your A team and identifying who that is, go back to the kit. We've got one of those spreadsheets in there. It's actually a really simple spreadsheet, but it just gets you thinking about who is in my A team. And this spreadsheet becomes a really helpful thing during your campaign. Reference it weekly. Go back. Am I communicating with these people? Am I giving them the personal touch they need? Or have they committed to give yet? Do I need to follow up with them in another email or another email or another email? Because sometimes you have to do that. So this in our kit, you've got a spreadsheet that's just going to help you with that. It's a simple Google spreadsheet. Okay. The last thing, I believe, one of the last things I want to talk about here is email marketing. And email is something that we get really great results with our agency side branches, Mission Lab. We manage email for lots of organizations, and so we've learned kind of what works and what doesn't, and we see a huge room for improvement with a lot of organizations. And so I wanted to include that in this presentation because we see a lot of nonprofits come. Grow a ton in their fundraising results once they implement these strategies. But I'm curious, again, I want to hear from you. Put it in the chat. When it comes to driving results, are you using email marketing? And if so, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's that going? So if you're not using it at all, just put a 0. If you're using it and doing great and crushing it, put a 10. I'll just be curious how well it's working for you now. Okay. Yeah, we're kind of middle of the road here, mostly. Not a lot. I don't see any 8s, 9s, or 10s. So okay. Yeah, thanks for putting your numbers in there. It's helpful to just know where you're at. So let me unpack what we see working really well for email. We found that It's one of your greatest opportunities online. Of course, nothing's going to beat face-to-face fundraising. Nothing's going to beat that. But you can't do that with thousands of people. So email is an opportunity that we see online to connect in a way that people respond to. They take action. A lot of times people focus a ton of energy on social media, um, and they believe, that's where they're gonna get results. But, take it from someone who's, spent a decade doing both social media and email. Email is really powerful, and social media, especially when it's isolated, doesn't work very well. It needs to be a part of a digital ecosystem where email, social, your website, it's all working together in a cohesive way. And I don't have time to go into that, but we do have another worksheet in the kit. But if you can actually map out your audience journey, you can start to identify, how does my digital ecosystem of email, social media, my website, maybe text messaging, how do they all play a role in your audience journey? Moving someone from never heard of you before to making that first donation to your raving fan that loves what you do. Your ecosystem can guide people through that journey, but only if you know the role that they play. You can't just That doesn't just happen. It happens when you have a plan for the journey and you map it out and you know the role that each channel plays. And so, your digital ecosystem may include website, social, email automations that happen, email campaigns, advertising. We do a lot of influencer partnerships, and that can have a big role. If you have a podcast, that takes role. Lead magnets, if you use those. So there's lots of things that can play a role in that. And they all need to be working together cohesively, or otherwise they might just be a waste of time. Social media can waste a lot of people's time, not just scrolling, but also just creating a bunch of content for your nonprofit, posting it, and then walking away from it, not getting much engagement, not driving results, but you keep doing it over and over again. Integrate that into your digital ecosystem. And we don't have time to teach on how to do that, but just be thinking about that holistically. And I do want to go a little deeper into email, but at the end of the day, if your ecosystem is not aligned with your goals, integrated together, focused, each one having a goal and a real objective for each channel, and it's not getting results, then you've got a problem, right? That we need all of this happening. Okay, so there is a little worksheet in our booster kit about the digital strategy funnel, so that it helps you kind of work through that. So again, back to the kit, we're trying to make this as easy as possible for you. Um, so here we go. So back to email. Why focus on email? I want to pull that out again from the roadmap for a little bit and focus just on email because we believe it's got the highest ROI on when it comes to digital fundraising. This is a statistic that's been floating around. I don't know exactly how this is measured because it's kind of outrageous. But the point is, whether it's 4,400% ROI or just really good ROI, I'll take, 5 to $1 raised, right? But I think what they're saying is that it doesn't have a lot of expense, so especially not a lot of hard cost for email. There is a decent amount of time that goes into it if you're doing it well, but it can pay off big time. And I would say it's got a much higher ROI than just about any other digital fundraising strategy. And so the reason we believe this happens is because there's something about email that drives action. We if I need to go, do business, I'm usually doing it in my inbox. If I need to go pay for something, there's an invoice there. If I need to go, get a receipt from a purchase, it's in my inbox, right? So social media, not so much, right? There's links to those things, but it's more for, casual engagement. But with email, you're able to drive action. You're able to drive clicks directly to the giving page and get people to take action. So I would say one of the most obvious things you can do if you're not already doing is just send more emails during your campaigns. When you're fundraising, you should be sending more communications everywhere, especially on email. Often we see nonprofits just not sending enough. It's one of the first things you can do. Um, People need to hear something over and over again before they'll take action. They need to hear it repeated, right? And so just because you send an email with all the information about your campaign does not mean you're done talking about it. And even if you send a second follow-up email, think about your open rates and your click rates. A lot of people did not open that email, did not click on it, and have not heard about what you're doing. And some of those people could have the ability to write a big check or give you a big donation, but they just didn't see the email because their email inbox is out of control. It's too much. So there needs to be multiple points of communication in multiple channels, not just email, like I said, the ecosystem, but even in email alone, sending multiple messages and get creative. You don't have to literally copy and paste and send again. It's not what I'm saying. Get creative, mix it up. But they do need to hear that message and that call to action multiple times before they're going to respond. So just we always say this, don't rob people of the chance to change the world just because they didn't open the one email you sent, right? It's like I sent an email about that. And again, if you're sending it to thousands of people, there's a good chance a lot of people aren't going to see it, and yet they may want to engage. So keep the emails coming. And then get creative. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I could talk about this for hours, but tell stories, in your emails. You can use data here and there. Get creative with images, video, quotes. Maybe it's an FAQ or a highlight. I love actually highlighting donors because then your donors can see themselves in your communication and they can say, wow, I want to do what that person did. They gave generously. I want to give generously. Right. So, of course, we want to highlight the stories on the field and the impact stories. That's a no-brainer. We got to do that. But also highlight those donor stories. They can be really motivating for people. And then personal letters are really powerful as well. And we've all seen those, right? Um, Speaking of a personal letter, we have one of our kind of secret weapons. We call it the best email ever is a format where you take off all the images, all the logos, and just write a personal note to your email list from someone on your team. So it's not from the organization's name, it's not corporate in any way, it's personal. This type of email performs really well. And I believe it's because people it feels personal. It feels like an email from a friend or a colleague. And they read those emails. But it doesn't feel like a mass email with all the logos and the branding and polished, and clearly this was sent to thousands of people. And so this is one of our kind of secret weapons. We use this not for every email we send, but we mix this into every campaign, and it gets great results. And there's a lot of specifics on how to do this well. And so again, it's in the kit. You can go get this kind of a guide to how to send these emails. And I'm also happy to answer questions or review your emails if you want some help, because this can be a really powerful strategy. All right. So I want to share, I know I promised some inspiring stories. Everybody loves the case studies. So I wanted to share another case study or two. This one really highlights email marketing. So a medium-sized nonprofit ministry hired our agency, our team, to work on their emails, and we used these strategies, just exactly what I'm teaching you. Sent more emails, sent them mixed up, got creative, did the best email ever strategy, and out of that, we were able to take their campaign and way more than double it. We went from 17,000. It was an end of year campaign where they raised 17,000, and then this was a couple years back. Then the year that we worked on it, we raised 93,000. And so the ROI there, this work was so huge, and it changed the way they fundraise forever. In fact, the next campaign, implementing those same strategies, there was $163,000 raised. So just think here, we're going from 17,000 to almost 170,000, right? So that massive growth there year over year. And again, most of this came through more email marketing. There was other strategies, to be fair, but that was the big difference in these campaigns. So coming back to the roadmap, I know that I've covered a lot of ground. There's a whole lot more we could talk about here, and I'm happy when we get to the Q&A to cover some of these. But one of my last questions I want to talk through with you all is I want to step back and be honest with each other. And oftentimes we go to these webinars, we go to a conference or an event, and we get real excited. We take a lot of notes, but then we don't actually take action. We don't follow through with those things. maybe one or two things, but we don't really take action. So I want to ask you, have a bit of a reality check of if you have all these four things, will you actually do them? And I believe some of you might, but a lot of you need accountability. You need someone to come alongside of you. And so that's the people holding each other's up, holding their arms up, right? And so that's I just want to ask you if you need that. And do you have that? Do you have a team of people? Do you have a boss or someone that's going to help keep you accountable to actually implementing some of these ideas? Because think about the impact it could have if you doubled your next fundraising campaign. So I want to give you that reality check and ask you, like, what will hold you back? We're all different, right? Maybe you're good. You don't need that accountability, that check in. I know I need it, but what will hold you back? Is it maybe fear of over communicating? You don't want to offend someone. Maybe it's procrastination. We all can struggle with that at times. Maybe you're just putting out fires and don't have enough time. I just want you to leave today thinking about that so that you can actually maybe do something about it in order to help get the results that you actually need for your the good work you're doing. And who's going to help you get unstuck? Is it? And I would actually say write a name down or think about this because you need someone to again be in it with you, coaching you, asking questions, helping you work through it. And if you need some help with that, that's what we do at goodmakerU. So, of course, we'll be your coach in your community if you join our program. And I just want to ask you that, what would it mean to double your next fundraiser? Like, what would that mean for your nonprofit? Think about that for a second. That may provide the motivation you need to get the accountability you need, and to tell others and to really do it. What would that mean? Would that mean you could hire someone else that you need to hire? Would it mean that you would impact more lives? Would it mean that you would be able to have less stress and enjoy your job a little bit more? So just think about that for a second. And then just real quick, in case anybody is interested, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Fundraising Masterclass. It's where we help you kind of find your clarity of how to execute these campaigns and get the confidence to go fundraise. So the goal would be that you would raise more awareness and more funds immediately, not just in the long run, but like in those 60 days and immediately after, as you execute a campaign, we want to help you get results. So it's a 60-day cohort with a small nonprofit group that is on Zoom. We meet just bi-weekly, every other week. And then there's some homework, all online, virtual, that happens on off weeks. And you're going to be led by either me or another expert coach that's certified in our content. So if you're interested in that, just imagine yourself at the end of the 60 days, just you're certified. We're going to get a certificate that you can put on LinkedIn and things, but you're also excited about fundraising. You're feeling confident for the first time. Like literally 100% of our participants leave feeling confident and excited about fundraising. Maybe you're high-fiving your board members or your boss or your team because you're getting results. Maybe you're able to hire people or work on the most important work. Or maybe it's just paying yourself and your team what you deserve, because sometimes that doesn't happen in the nonprofit world. And so, if you're interested in that, hopefully this QR code works. I can put a link in the thing, or you can easily find it on our website. But we'd love to schedule a call and just see if you're a good fit and talk it over with you and tell you more about it, answer any questions you have. So I want to see you raise twice as much next campaign. I would love to see you raise 10 times more at your next campaign. And so if you join the masterclass, we would happily help you do that. And in fact, we actually have a guarantee. If you don't double last year's campaign, you get your money back. So we're that confident that you will. So anyway, let us know if you want to talk about that. Just go on there, schedule a call, and we'd love to talk. So with that, I've got time for Q&A, and I've also put my email address here, and I would happily answer questions now or follow up over email. So if you email that, our team will get it, and we can dig deeper with you if you'd like. So. Oh, Heather, you're muted if you're.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jesse. This has been excellent. We already have a question from Beverly. She says, how can we increase email open rates, click rates?
Yeah, great question. So I would say open rates, you're going to want to look at your subject lines, test and try new things with those, and your from, who is the email from, as well as other things like when you send the email, and even just checking your deliverability to make sure your list is clean. So with subject lines, we really recommend trying short subject lines that really make people curious and want to open it. If your subject line's a whole sentence about exactly what's in the email, then they don't even need to open the email. Because it's all summarized in the subject line, right? But I see people do that all the time. So those are some things, and it's all about testing and trying and seeing what works. And then the from line will also help. Maybe it needs to be from your CEO. Maybe it needs to be from your development director. Maybe it should be from some creative place, like the people that are impacted. And so mixing that up might just get people who haven't opened your email in a while to say, who's this? Or I haven't heard from them in a while, and they click it, and they're curious, right? And so mix it up, try something new. With click rates, my number one tip, just because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, is simplify your email. Don't have a bunch of calls to action. You can have multiple links, but they should probably all go to the exact same place, because that means your email is very focused. They open it, they read it, they know what you want them to do, and if they're moved by what you're saying, they don't have a bunch of options to choose from. They have one place they can go, and you're driving them all to that, and that usually increases open rates quite a bit. Then versus like a newsletter where there's 8 things happening and they don't know what to read or what to click on or what to watch. It's a little overwhelming. So keep it focused.
That's great. We have another question from Activate Global asking, what's the best way to handle unsubscribes?
Yeah. Um, I would say, there's a lot to think about here. One tip I would say is never read the names of the unsubscribes, because you're just gonna get your feelings hurt. But no, it actually doesn't provide any value to know the names. And the other funny thing is sometimes, like, I subscribe to my favorite things 2 or 3 times because I have a lot of email addresses, and then I have to go unsubscribe 1 or 2 times. And then if they see my name unsubscribed, they're like, "Oh no, I know that guy and he unsubscribed." But no, not really. I just didn't want to get it 3 times every email, right? So you just can't worry too much about the names, but do look at the data. And what I say is it's very normal to get unsubscribes. Don't sweat it. You need to have a way to be getting new email addresses faster than your unsubscribes, right? So you need acquisition strategies that allow your email list and your leads to be growing. And there's a lot of strategies for that. We didn't talk much about that, but whether it's influencer marketing, advertising, creating great content, there's a lot of strategies to be growing your list. So, but as long as your unsubscribes doesn't like go out of control high, that's a red flag, right? If it's just really high on an email, you should stop and try to understand why that happened. But don't stop communicating, because the thing is, those people that left, you're really just cleaning your list a little bit. Maybe they weren't really relevant to begin with. Maybe they weren't someone that was ever going to give or ever really pay attention. Maybe should have never been on the list to begin with. And so don't feel too bad about that. It's just a part of it. It's very normal to have unsubscribes to every email. And as long as you're gaining subscribers somehow, then it's totally okay.
We have another question from Paul. He's asking for weary donors on over communication with them, where they are exhausted with your communication strategies. Are those people few and far between, or what percent are exhausted with email? What are your thoughts about surveying your donors to ask
Mhm.
them what they value?
Yeah. All right, a lot of thoughts. So normally when people say that, Paul, and I haven't met you, but it's because they don't like getting emails, and they personally are exhausted by email. So they just assume and project that on everybody else. And you're actually probably true. People, and in your survey, which you should send, people will say, yeah, don't send me too many emails. I don't want those. But the truth is the results are obvious in every research study, and just, you can trust me, I do this a lot. People, they need you to keep communicating over email, and they will respond. It works. And so I would not let you, either your personal like kind of hatred for email, or even some survey responses to make you ignore all the data out there that you can find to show that email drives fundraising results. Just literally any online fundraiser will tell you that. So, but because I think it's one of those things that while people may not enjoy getting so much email, they still open and click on emails. And so, and they make decisions based on it. Email isn't just it's not a tech tool, it's a way we do life. So to disengage and step out of that, the, Target and Old Navy's not going to stop sending emails, and so they're getting their emails every day, right? And so they're going to just go buy more stuff from them instead of giving to your organization if you stop sending those emails. So I would say, on the flip side of that, you should obviously be careful. There is a point where you can overdo it. It's just rarely do I see that happen in the nonprofit world. It happens, but I would say most are not sending enough. And so a survey is always a good idea to get a read on your audience, and then yes, watch the unsubscribes. There is a tipping point where you're like, sent too many, unsubscribes are skyrocketing. I need to back up. I need to slow down. There's definitely a point for that. But I would just encourage you to, yeah, do a survey, try to ask a lot of questions, get to know your audience. That's always a good idea. And that could definitely be a part of it, is whether their preferences, but just don't put so much weight in that you back out of that really effective channel.
We have another question from Miriam. How do we diagnose deficiencies in past fundraising campaigns so we can craft better fundraising emails in the future?
Great question. Yeah, diagnose deficiencies in past fundraising campaigns. So the first thing I think about is I'd love to schedule a call and help you, because it's hard to know. In 30 minutes, maybe I could help you diagnose some things. But I would say, there you could analyze, look at metrics, depending on the size of your organization and kind of the tech stack you have. Again, I don't know any of those things, but you could see, where are we losing people? Is it that, if you look at the journey that I mapped out, you can kind of see, where are we having success? Like, people are paying attention here, they're engaging here, but then they're gone and they don't take the next step. Then you're able to start to kind of diagnose, okay, here's the problem area. There's not a conversion happening from this place to this place, and craft better messaging that way. The other thing I would say is get feedback from people in your audience. So send them emails, send them messaging, your core message that we talked about, and get feedback so they can help you. I diagnose, like, oh, that wasn't very clear, that wasn't very compelling. I didn't really understand that. Get people to give you honest feedback. They will. And people outside of your organization. That's always very helpful.
Another question from Joe. You mentioned that face-to-face solicitation is still far more effective than email marketing. Does that mean you feel like a ministry should prioritize working on the in-person things over email marketing?
Well, it depends on, the organization, right? So I don't know if you have a team of, 500 staff, and, or if you're just a one person organization, and we work with both, but um, probably in both cases, you should have a good balance of both, because some organizations get unhealthy by being too dependent on one stream of income. It's like diversifying your streams of revenue, of your streams of fundraising, is important for the long-term sustainability and health of your organization. So you might be able to go meet face to face with some people and raise a lot of money, but then what if they can't give again next year, and then all of a sudden you shrink, you're giving a ton. Email and your broad base of givers are going to be more sustainable long term. They're not going to just, they're smaller gifts. So if you lose one or two, it doesn't affect the budget like it does if you lose a major donor that gives $100,000. So you have to have a healthy organization will have both, and both will be growing. However, there are stages in an organization where you really have to pick one or the other. And for instance, a brand new small organization, sometimes it's best to start with those in person, so that you can raise some capital faster, get the funds you need to maybe then go invest on email, which does take some time to build up. But if you're sitting on an email list and you're not communicating with them, then it's low hanging fruit, and you need to be sending to them. If you don't have an email list at all, it's going to take a while to build that, but you should at least start slowly building that up.
Just to let everybody know, Hannah has posted the link to Jesse's slides up on the chat. Another question from Activate Global. Should we take the time to connect with those that unsubscribed one last time and ask why, or just let them go?
Yeah, you can. There's definitely some tools that allow for like a little survey. I think they're best when they happen right when they click unsubscribe and then they get a notification that says, "Can you tell us why?" Some of your email tools will offer that, and that's a good thing to do because then you can start to understand. I wouldn't follow up by sending them an email because they literally just told you to stop emailing them. So in fact, some people might get grumpy and, yeah, you report you to the spam or whatever, which is not good for your deliverability. You're not going to get in major trouble for that. But all that to say, I would just use a tool that kind of makes it a real organic, natural invitation to give feedback right in that moment that they unsubscribed versus following up with them personally or with another email.
A question from Lori. What type of segmentation of a mailing list are advisable by
Mhm.
type of donor, by type of stories, or what?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked about segmentation. I didn't have time to go deep into that, but the more you can segment your email, the better results you're going to get. That's another great way to increase open rates and click rates to the person that asked about that earlier. So how do you segment? I mean, honestly, this is oversimplification, but is if you have the data, segment based on that data. So a lot of organizations, all they know about their donor is, oh, well, they gave to this place, they gave to this campaign. I've got their address, their email, maybe their phone number, and that's it. So you really can't segment that much. If you have more data, like the stories they're interested in, I'm trying to think of, if you can track with your CRM, like how many times they've given or how long they've given, if you classify them as a major, mid, or a broad base, which you should, or the interest of that donor. Those are all great ways to segment. And then at times, email them based on those segments. Like if you have a relevant thing to share with that segment, that's a great time to do it. So some of my favorite ones would just be by gift size. Another one would be the region, if your organization speaks to certain regions, or interests. So if they're focused on, like if you're a global mission and they always give to Africa, but you have work in India and Asia, then maybe they're in a interest segment based on Africa and you've got a new story in Africa, you can share that. So that's the kind of thing where if you have that data, that is awesome. Now, the thing about segmented emails, it's more work, and that's where you start to send a lot more emails to smaller lists, but each one of those is going to be more impactful because it's more relevant. So um, hopefully that was helpful. I know it's kind of a broad answer, but
We have two more questions. From Godfrey, how many years back would you recommend we go to try and re-engage with former donors?
I mean, I can't. I mean, I would prioritize anybody that lapsed in the last 2 years or so. But if you can go all the way back, I mean, if someone donated 10 years ago and you still got their information, it can't hurt to reach back out. Maybe they stopped because at the time they didn't have the financial means to keep giving, but they still have that same passion. And I know for me, a lot of the organizations I've given to, I've given to for a long time, and some that I stopped giving to, I would give again if they asked, but they don't ask, right? They don't follow up with me. So if you have the ability to make a personal contact with past donors, especially if they were significant, like maybe they gave 4 or 5 years ago, $5,000, $10,000, they probably would give again if you built a relationship and you got to know them and you invited them to give again. So I would say there's no harm in going back uh, longer time frames, as long as you're not violating, some communication like principles by, sending them a lot of emails when they're not subscribed or something like that. But I mean, I think reaching out and trying to make contact a couple times is a very good idea, actually.
Another question from Dennis. Do you have charges? Oh, actually, how can they find out about what your charges
Oh,
are for
sure.
missions or individuals?
You have charges for missions or individuals for these services. Yeah, we'd love to so it starts with just scheduling a call and we can talk through that, get to know your organization, see if it's even a good fit to work together. And then we can talk about that as well on that call if you're interested. So I'd love to talk to you. And so, yeah, if you go to that website that Heather just put in there, you can download the kit. There's also a link to schedule a call. And I'll put real quick, I'll put the link to the masterclass as well in the chat, and then that has a link to schedule a call as well. So if you're interested in it, you can check it out. There it is. So yeah, click on that, and you can schedule a call with either be with me or my COO, Ben, and we would love to just talk strategy, see if you're a good fit, and then we can talk prices too.
Sounds great. So many great questions this time. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm just going to do our closing announcements here. And Mary Kay will put up her slides. Thank you so much for what you shared for us today. Let's end the recording now. This webinar has been recorded and will be available to Missio Nexus members on the Missio Nexus website. After the webinar, you'll be connected to an evaluation survey. Please take a minute or